Welcome everyone. In this video, we'll learn about organizational change. Organizational change. So basically, there are two types of change. One is planned change and the other one is unplanned change. Now, why do we go for planned change? Because it results from a deliberate decisions about where we are. If things are to be improved, we make a decision as of today. Or we are in a soup, we would love to change or get ourselves from a wrong situation to the right perspective. Now, I am talking everything from the point of view of an organization. So, wherein the organization's plans are changed. Let's say, example would be the organization is incorporating a new technology. So that's a change that goes around it from semi-automatic to fully automatic, from manual to mechanic, from manual to automatic, various pedagogy of change that comes around it. And I'm talking only of technological, that there can be changes in the process, there can be changes in the structure, there can be changes in the people. So these are something which known as plan change. People might say, why? What do you mean by the change in the people? The change in people is all about succession planning, right? We are grooming a person or a group of person to lead a particular strategic business unit or a particular business or a particular position thereby. So everything, be it technology, be it the organizational culture, be it the process, be it the organizational structure, or be it the change in people, everything is can be planned. And then there is something called unplanned change. Now, what is unplanned change? Often it has been imposed onto the organization. By whom? You may say it's written for unforeseen, but yes, the most common unplanned change is being imposed onto you as an organization by your competitors. They might reduce the price of the product in which you are also applying. Now, once they have reduced the price of the product and that product is competing with your product, you are bound to reduce the price, right? Another changes which is unforeseen is might be due to the federal government's rules and regulation. The federal government rules and regulation might change. The taxation policies can change. The subsidies can evaporate. The subsidies can be imposed. Now, based upon those changes which is happening external to the organization has to readjust itself, and that is what is unplanned change. So manager must be able to handle both of them. Now, talking about external forces of change, we're talking about there are four kinds of change. One is a globalization, workforce diversity, ethical behaviors, and changing technology. I believe I have already said about changing technology from manual to mechanical, from mechanical to semi-automatic, from semi-automatic to automatic, or vice versa. Why is this happening? Because it is the advancement of the technology that comes around it. Earlier in the production processes, it was quite labor oriented or workforce oriented or employee oriented. But things have changed, and now robotic arms might be doing a lot of work, making a lot of work very easy for the human beings, the employees. So that is what is changing technology. Talking about globalization, yes, we are now producing a product at one place, one country probably, and consuming that particular product in a different place or a different country or a different continent per se. So it is all about perspective. Now things have been available round the globe at more or less the same similar price range. Then we have something called workforce diversity. Workforce diversity is what? It is people who's coming from different kind of background, be it of genders, be it of their orientation, be it of their color of skins, you name it, and people are coming from different backgrounds, from the socioeconomic strata, and so on and so forth. Now, if things have been changed on the part of technology and the part of globalization of business, the scale of business, or the workforce diversity. I am sure there are ethical behavior that needs for to be changed around it. What was accepted 100 years back is not rightly anticipated or even expected, is, or should I say, outrightly rejected as of today's customs. You can name any of the custom that goes around it, and believe me or not, when I say the things that we profess right now probably will not be in an existence in another 100 years time. So ethical behaviors, ethics changes, and that is the reason why there is this term called generation gap that comes around it. So yes, globalization is organization must think the most efficient way to utilize resources, to disseminate information, to develop people, and that is what globalization is all about. It is all about structural change. It is all about mental change. We are not going to do business keeping the profile of the audiences or keeping the profile of the customer in the vicinity. We can embark upon a business where uh, the customer profile is spread across the region, in fact, across the country, or in fact, in a different part of the continent altogether, or in the different part of the world. So, yes, we are looking for a mental change, we are looking for a thought process change, we are looking for a structural change. We are not looking for complete holistic control over an organization. So then comes the workforce diversity. If you look into it, a lot of people have seen a change. I'm sure about seeing a change in the participation of female workers. 50 years back, forget 100 years back, 50 years back, the participation of the ladies in the workforce was not as rampant as it is today. I'm sure people from different background, different socioeconomic strata, different skin color, different culture, different religion are now working under the same roof in a same organization. And definitely there are countries where it can be seen that workforce is actually aging. There are many economies where younger generation do not outnumber the older generation. In fact, it is the other way around, where the older generation is outnumbering them. So we are having more old people, more middle-aged people in the system thereby. Now, what is it we are looking into it? So ethical behaviors. Now, if we have to go around with its ability to reach across boundaries and give voice to many, the internet ground rules for everything from commerce to government, everything changes. You can, I'm sure about it, digitrends.net. I again repeat, digitrends.net, DIGITRENDS, digitrends.net, and probably you can see what are the emerging technologies that is coming up and around. What are the latest newsworthy events in the world of digital technology and their implication in the society. Now, that is all about technology that I have been trying to tell it to you, right? And this needs to be understood from all of us. So we have a change in technologies, and that has led to a change in organizational structure. Probably, yes, before the pandemic or before the epidemic of COVID-19 that hit upon our planet, probably most of us were comfortable going to the offices or going to the workplaces and earning their livelihood. But with the pandemic, things have shifted. People might be working from anywhere. It might be from office, it might be from cafe, it might be from their luxurious place, or even at their home. Why is this possible? Because now we have this hybrid system of working. Probably that is the organizational structure that comes around it. Next is the change in the work relationship that goes around. Work changing in the work relation is the must requirement. With passage of time, things have been much more democratized. Now, yes, this is what ethical behaviors and ethical treatment will come, because from the society, from the environment, from the customers, and from other organization, if I may say so. Ethical behaviors is what we are looking forward to. Internal force for change, what are we looking into it? We are looking into declining effectiveness, changing work climate, company crisis, and changing employee expectation. These are what are the requirement for the day. What are we looking? We are looking for declining effectiveness, the internal forces of changes. Yes, yes, our productivity has been hit. Yes, our profitability has been hit. Yes, the revenues are shrinking. If all the answers are yes to these probability three questions of productivity, revenue, and profitability, if things have been changes, that means we are getting ineffective. So yes, that means we need to reinvigorate ourselves, reinvent ourselves, and that is the reason for changes. Then comes the work climate. Obviously, yes, people are adapting to newer technologies. Probably the organization is adapting, or the people are adapting, or there is a mismatch about them, and that is what leads to a change in the work climate. Next comes the company crisis. Company crisis is where we are looking, the company is looking at imbalanced payment of imbalanced payment terms altogether. At times there might be cash which is in short in circulation. They might not be able to meet their current liabilities per se. So company might be into doldrums, into crisis for some reason or other reason. One of the project, the company which was banking upon it suddenly backfired. uh, as a result, things has to be taken into a different perspective. Now that is what company crisis is all about it. And yes, employees have become more demanding. Employees expectations are changing. Employees expectations are moving away, and they are not looking for a lifelong employment from any particular company. In fact, they would love to render their services whoever bids for the highest salary or the wages that they want to go around it. So these are the four reasons for changes that comes around. Scope of change is incremental change, change of relatively small scope, such as a minor improvement, a small improvement. Then we have something called strategic change, change of a larger scale, such as the organizational restructuring and things like that, which is going across the organization. And then we have the transformational change. Here, the organization move a different perspective into a different zone altogether. It's radically different, something which is unknown, unfused in a future state of mind. So yes, scope of changes are incremental, strategic, transformational change. Let us understand the role of a change agent. Change agent is the person or a group of person who undertakes the task of introducing and probably managing change in the organization. Essentially, the a change agent is an external to the organization, as external person to the organization. Why? Because an internal person, if he or she or the group wants to make a change, probably people will view it with a different perspective. They might call it dictatorial. They might not be able to understand the perspective of the changes. They may resent going to the working and things might not improve. So essentially what happens is we bring in a consultant or a third party or the change agent or a group of people who will make people understand, the employee understand about the requirement for the change, why a particular process has been looked into or undertaken across it. The change agent nevertheless can be internal person or the external person. Let us begin with the internal change agent. Oh, what are the advantages? Advantages are plentiful. Why? Because he or she is known to the organizations, so they know the system, they know the power centers, they know the political system, they know the culture, and most importantly, they will be the person who is going to be a part of the organization even after the change has taken place. So they have to bear the burnt if things are going wrong, or they will reap the fruits if things are going good. So they are part of the system. So if there are advantages, there must be disadvantages. Now, probably because they are associated with faction, they might be accused of favoritism or partiality or nepotism. Now, since they are part of the system, they know a lot of people who are working together, right? And with whom their terms on an they are on excellent terms with each other, right? So these are things that might twist or might tend to favor them, and that is not to be anticipated or appreciated at any place. And probably the other disadvantages is no matter how wonderful the change they don't want to bring in, being a part of the system, they are too close to understand the situation with an objective manner. Now, that is what you always happen around it. Now, let us understand. We have spoken about the internal changes. Let us see what are the pluses and minuses of the external agents thereby. Any negatives of internal agent are positives of external agents, and vice versa for the other disadvantages. So look at it. Advantages is outsiders, being an outsider, they have a ringside view. They can see the perspective, they can see the whole scenario from an eagle's eye. So most importantly, they will understand the situation, And second more best advantages is they are impartial, since they are not known to anyone. People who are exhibiting the right behaviors, the right characteristics, people might be promoted around it, and there will be no cases of favoritism per se. But then did I say exactly the opposite, the mirror opposites of internal agent and external agent? Yes, they do not have the requisite knowledge of the organizational history, and probably people will not trust an external person. They would love to know, they are very comfortable with an internal fellow, and as a result, people from outside will always be looked in a different prism, through a different prism altogether. To succeed, they must perceived as trustworthy, be expert with a proven track records, and be similar to those of that been associated thereby. So yes, people do not. If you look at the pick, people do not like change. In fact, everybody wants to be in their comfort zone. Why? Because they are afraid of the unknown. Why? Because they are afraid that they are going to lose whatever they have, lose their reputation, lose their power, lose their authority, lose their contact, lose their utility value altogether. So yes, there is a fear of failure. Yes, there's a disruption of interpersonal relationship if organizational structures are changed altogether. So we are looking to build up a relationship right from the beginning. We have the personality conflicts that comes around it, the politics that needs to be taken into consideration. Everything needs to be understood, the cultural assumptions and the values. Now these are the reasons for changes that comes around it. If you look into it, the fear of unknown, the fear of loss, the fear of failure, the disruption of interpersonal relationship, the personality conflicts, politics, cultural awareness, and the values thereby. Now, the question is, if the person do not want to open the door, as in my previous pick was there, how do you make him open? So how do you deal with the resistance to changes? First and foremost thing is communication, communication and communication, nothing between it. You need to speak up. You need to say why you are looking for a change. You need to address their fears. You need to communicate as detailed as possible. And we speak with logic. Participation is the process. Ownership and commitment. Once people start speaking up, people will start owning up the problem. People will start owning up the change process. They will understand and probably commit them towards the change. Yes, we have the empathy and support that needs to be taken care of. Now, resisting to change management interventions. Now, what are we reactions to it? Now, disengagement. The expression would be withdrawal. So, managerial interventions would have to be confronting why people are not coming to the work, why people are desisting from the activities. So, you need to confront. You need to identify the moment somebody is psychologically withdrawing from the changes. Then comes disidentification, and this is where a person might think his or her utility in the organization will cease to exist. So expression would be all of sadness and worry. Now this is where the manager has to come and say what all things that they can improve upon, acquire skills that needs to be acquired to make themselves again relevant. Probably if things have been, they have been, if people have been disidentifying themselves, if people have been rendered useless, jobless, workless, the people have to gain a skill, and that is what the managerial intervention should all be about it. In terms of disenchantment, is all about feeling negativity, anger towards the change. Now, this is an expression where a person is vividly angry. Now, this is where the manager has to come and soothe the nerves, neutralize, acknowledge them. Then comes disorientation, feeling of loss and confusion due to change. Now, this is where the expression of confusion comes around it. Why? Because people will say, why am I disoriented? If you want to say around it, why? Because they have been working in a particular system, in a particular fashion, in a particular way for certain number of years, and suddenly you decide that things has to be changed. So what was wrong? The question is what was wrong, and if things have been changed, will it improve? Now this is the confusion that may be coming around it, and this gives an excellent opportunity for the manager to explain, to plan, and to make them understand of what we are looking into it. Yes, the famous Levin's three-step model, change model, is unfreezing. involving encouraging individual to discard old behaviors by shaking up equilibrium state and maintain the status quo thereby. So one is unfreezing, then is moving it to a different attitude, to a different value system, to a different behavioral uh, which needs to be substituted from the old things. Now this is where first you unfreeze, then you move, and then probably refreeze. This is where you involve the established of the new attitude, new values, new behaviors as the new standards set around here, and that is what we are looking into. So simple three-step model: freezing, moving, and refreezing, as the case might be. Force field analysis of decisions to engage in exercises. What are the force for change? Weight gain, minimally passing treadmill test, feel lethargic, have no energies, family history of cardiovascular disease, new physically demanding jobs. That is what we are looking into it. Forces for status quo would be lack of time, no exercise facility at work, spouse, partners hate to exercise, no interest in physical activity or sports, made a grade of D and physical education class as the case might be. This is what we are looking forward to. So yes, we are talking about lack of time, no exercise facilities, spouse, no interest in physical activity or sports, made up of grade D in physical education class thereby. So let us move to the Lewin's model of model to the organization as how it goes around it. For example, in the unfreezing state, the organization can have the carrot and stick policy wherein it will reward for correct behaviors probably and punish for the wrong one or punish for the old one, as simple as it. So we can always have those carrot and stick policies. So every time you display or probably adhere to the new behavior, new set of processes, new technologies, you are being properly rewarded, acknowledged, incentivized your behaviors, your the mere fact that you have adopted the new process, the new technology altogether, now this can be incentivized altogether. So that is unfreezing. People are being incentivized, people are being motivated to change their behavior. And this is called moving. This is where the organization initiate the new options, explain their rationale, their benefit of doing a new behavior, the benefit of the new process, the benefit of the new technology, the structures, whatever the benefit that goes around it. People initially would hesitate, but once they will adopt and once they will adhere to the situation, the organization will be able to make them understand as to why we are doing it. And once people have started doing it, can we rephrase? Can we make that thing as a practice? The organization culture, the formal reward system encourages the new behaviors per se, and that is what we are looking at it. So, OD is all about a systematic approach to organizational improvement that applies behavioral science theories and research in order to increase individual and organization well-being, probably effectiveness also. So yes, it is a systematic study of organizational improvement, organizational advancement, organizational enhancement in terms of behavioral science theory and research to effectively increase the well-being of an organization and also the employees thereby. So yes, we talk about diagnosis and need analysis if the case might be. We're talking about diagnosis, yes, why, and need analysis, why. So if things are going not going well for the organization, it needs to change. If things are going well and it wants to improve upon it, it needs to change. So that is what we are looking forward exactly thereby. That needs to be understood. This brings to the intervention process, and then there's a follow up to it. So we need to ask, probably, yes, what are the forces of change? What are the forces that is preserving the status quo or not allowing you to change at all? What are the most likely sources of existence or resistance thereby? So you need to ask this question: what are the forces of change? What are the forces that reserves around it? Essentially, the group of organizational effectiveness will help clients facilitate the change, manage knowledge. The group works with the client organizations and will earn to improve our reputations altogether. Let's say a leader in the change management. what services are listed, how does the group address those issues, the need analysis, the evaluation for the clients thereby is what is most important. So remember the goals, the most likely sources of resistance, if we can address them one by one, one at a time, one by one, as per as the priority, you will see change becomes much more easier. Now, what are the external forces of tech changes? Something which is very true. First and foremost thing is the information technology. You see what has happened. Completely, the pedagogy of working has changed altogether. Come whatever industry you are looking at it, and that is why this has changed because of the pandemic. Now, what aided this change is information technology. Absolutely. Communication, mode of communication has improved by leaps and bounds. It's no longer in person. Visit is required to a particular site for you to come and understand the negotiation, which can be very well done with equal effectiveness on a virtual medium. So that is what the information technology is all about it. Next is globalization and competition. Why globalization and competition? Now, because the world has become a global village. Every person on this planet has an access to everything, all the amenities, almost all the amenities that is available to it. So that means there is an equal amount of competition in Asia, in Africa, for a company which is located in America, perhaps in Europe. So they have the clients elsewhere. So this is what is globalization is all about it. And yes, the demography plays a pivotal role for the external forces of changes. If I am saying that people are aging, certain economies people are aging, certain economies people are still vibrant and younger. Now, between two economies, there are external forces for changes. Why? Because for a for an economy which is younger in population, probably a lot of schools and colleges would be required. For an economy where there's a lot of older generations is populated, perhaps a lot of hospices would be required, daycare centers would be required. So see the amount of changes that comes around it, and probably of doing the businesses thereby. So yes, if you look into it one by one, you will see before the changes, we are all trying to move from a one particular state to a different particular state. Let's say state A and state B. The current conditions and the desired condition, state A, state B. If you look into it from everything from before change, during change, and after change, there would be something called a driving force and a restraining force. And at times, if you look at it, the restraining force becomes smaller and the driving force becomes impactful, big, much big. And then again, it realizes to a stable state, as in refreezing, moving, and refreezing, defreezing, moving, and refreezing. Again, the equilibrium comes on onto the same levels of driving forces for the changes and restraining forces from the changes, perhaps. So this is what the force field analysis would always let you know. Now let us understand the resistance to change one by one. Forces for changes, first is a direct cost. Every time you bring in a change, there is a cost associated with it. Then comes the saving phases. Why? Because people would not like to change. They would love to maintain the status quo. Why? Because they are in their comfort zone. Fear of the unknown is something which, as a human being, as an employee, nobody appreciate. We would always try to take a decision with all knowledges at our disposal. When I say disposal or knowledges, it is the outcome of the decision that goes around it. So if we are aware of the outcomes, based on the outcome, we can take a decision which option to choose from. But if things are not known to us, as in the case of changes, the fear of unknown always lurks around. Then comes the breaking routine. People would not like to do so. As did I say about the comfort zone? People are used to it. Incongruent system which is not absolutely parallel, system which is not absolutely transparent, system which is not absolutely communicable, people do not trust that system. And during the process of changes, in some cases, or should I say in most of the cases, the system becomes a little bit an hodgepodge or an incongruent. People are not very clear, they do not have the requisite clarity among the system thereby. And then comes the incongruent team dynamics. Team dynamics is what we are looking for. people are to study, to work, whether they are moving in the right direction. Now, what happens, as in the cases of formation of team, there are five stages. One first stage, the teams forms around it. The moment team forms around it, there is a storming stage, followed by storming stage, as in why people are not getting along with each other. Once storming stage has been first around it, it becomes a norming stage or normalizations happen. Now people now are aware of what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, what are the expectation, what are the roles, what are the regulations in the team. So once the norming stage comes around, then people start performing. So yes, we have forming, storming, norming, performing, and after eventually it becomes an adjoining situation. So that is the incongruent team dynamics that comes around it. It is the storming stage that I'm talking around here. So yes, creating of an urgency for changes is something which is very pivotal for a change to happen. Need to motivate employees to change. Most difficult when organization is doing well. Must be real, not contrived at all. Customer driven change, adverse consequences for firms. Human element energizes employees thereby. This is what will be required all the time. So customer driven changes, adverse consequences for the firms, human element energizes employees thereby. So I have again said it, and probably I'm saying it again. Is to minimize change, there's one word called communication. You need to communicate during the training process because people might need some upgrading of their skills, upgrading of their languages, upgrading of their technological um, know-how. So needs to be communicated. We need communications to be done for employee involvement. Until and unless you communicate, until and unless you speak up, how do you expect people to become a part of your team? How do you think that they will own the problem? How do you think they will implement the problem? So involvement of employee is must via communication. People might get stressed, yes. Why? Because they are moving from a different system altogether, from state A to state B, a different system. Yes, and every time there's a movement, every time there's things, the status quo is being ruffled, people do get stressed out. So this has to be managed. This has to be percolated in them, that whatever is happening for the best. Then comes the negotiations or coercions. Here we need to understand as to why people are changing or why people are resisting. In cases of resisting, give them some incentives, the rewards, if I may go around it, and you will see people going around it. In case negotiation doesn't work, the reward doesn't work, then the stick approach of coercion goes around it. The punishment has to be followed around it. And if you are forcing a person as in the punishment basis, people will toe the line. So yes, minimizing resistance to change is communication, training, employee involvement, stress management, negotiation, and coercion thereby. So refreezing the desired condition. Now this is where we have defreezed, moved, and refreezed. Here's the system for organizational system and team dynamics to reinforce desired changes. We need to alter the rewards to reinforce new behaviors. New information system guides new behaviors, recalibrate and introduce feedback system to focus on new priorities as on when on basis. We are looking exactly what is to be done. Change agent, anyone who possesses enough knowledge, power to guide and facilitate the change efforts. Change agents apply transformational leadership, help develop a vision, communicate the vision, act consistently with the vision thereby. So we need to go around here. This is very wonderful thing that goes around for the change agent. A change agent is only a person or a group of person who have the requisite knowledge, who have actually seen it happen in different organizations, who has the vision in front of it. They can facilitate the change effort. And now this change effort, the change agent can only take place through the change agent if there is this communication of vision, mission, and probably they are not only talking but also walking the talk, and that will mean they would be able to build a commitment for the visions that is going around it. Now successfully diffusing changes is all these steps. First and foremost thing, can we do a pilot study? if we want to see a change in our organization, can we have that change in a small part of a small department or a small segment of the organization? Once you do the pilot study, you will understand a lot of things, as in what will be the resistance, what kind of question that might comes around it, what happens if changes have been forced around. Based upon it, you can take the requisite measures and then probably roll it out across the organization. So yes, successful pilot study, favorable publicity, top management support, labor union involvement, diffusion strategies should be described as detailed as possible. Pilot program, people moved around thereby. So these will actually lead the change to happen in totality. With this, I come to an end of this particular presentation. Thank you for watching this video till the end.